Hey, it's good to see you today. My name is Philip. I'm a pastor of Journey here in Elgin, Texas. This is Tom Burns with the Redeemed Idiot. We are doing our Revelation recap. So we were here last night, finished up chapter 4, which is kind of a pretty big breaking point in Revelation. Right, things are going to start changing as we move forward. So we're gonna go through that. There is a clarification about an ox, but we'll get there on that. But overall, just kind of your thoughts on chapter the wrapping up of chapter 4, and what chapter 4 is kind of portraying.
Okay. I think the most simplistic way to say this, chapter 4 is the entire story, biblical story of redemption, Christ, the promise. It's all wrapped up in one chapter. It's just like, okay, this is the end to understand everything, because now chapter 5, we start moving forward. It changes its narrative because now he's coming to do his thing.
Yeah.
So it's like the summary of the Bible, the entire Bible, in just like 11 verses.
Yeah, it really is. It's really cool. And as we were talking about just a minute ago, that we all acknowledge, we know there are different interpretations, different ways that people view the book of Revelation. Some view it, some try to make everything very literal, right? Some, because that becomes very hard, right, at times, to make it completely literal, especially as we get to some of these future that you've mentioned. Some people try to make one aspect that is talking about a helicopter, right? Well, that's because they're trying to force this to be literal in every sense,
right?
And that's something that makes sense to us. So sometimes we can put our own ideas of what is literal into it.
Yes. Yeah.
So we need to be careful doing that.
Yep.
The other extreme is because it's like, it's kind of hard to make all of this literal, is we go, well, everything is symbolic in Revelation. Well, there is a lot of symbolism.
Absolutely there is.
In Revelation. Clearly, we've talked about that. The white robes are symbolic of something else. The different types of crowns are symbolic of something else, right? But that doesn't mean it's any less true or real.
Right.
But the danger with symbolic is that you just dismiss the potential of anything being actual literal.
True.
Right?
Yep.
So we say that because I know people come at it from different points of view. But the most important thing about this chapter, it's not whether you believe these creatures are literal, which I think they are literal creatures. Right?
I think so too.
But it is what are they standing for? What are they pointing to? What truth are they pointing us to?
Right.
And the reality is whether you think it's as completely literal and that you could go up and you could touch the face of the ox, right? Or if you believe it's completely symbolic, the most important thing is, do you recognize the truth that it's pointing to, which goes back to who Christ is, the covenant that he has made, the redemptive plan, and that he's the one carrying it out.
Right.
Is that essentially?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't really say any more than that. That's exactly it.
So
exactly it.
But at the same time, I think it is good to go into these things and to dig deep.
Yeah.
Because we need to know where that truth comes from.
Yeah, I'm glad you said comes from, because that by doing it makes you basically go seek his wisdom, like it says, and learn more and understand more of why all the things happened in the Old Testament, whether it be the law, whether it be the covenant, whether it be the sacrifices. Why did God establish all this? And that's the beauty of it. And they're like, oh, now I'm not just reading a little story and God's like, I'm going to put up this list of everything you have to do. Everything that he's requiring is for a purpose, not just because he felt like making a bunch of rules.
Yes.
And then once you understand the context behind it, the truth behind it, like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. That's fun to understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into. So we started in verse 5 of chapter 4.
Yes.
Right. And so we've talked about the 24 elders. Which again, is so cool whenever you actually take them as literal elders and their names, and then you go through their names. It basically gives out the plan of redemption,
plan. Yep.
right? before that, we looked at the different colors and the specific colors, and then connected those to the specific tribe, and it all pointed to who? The author of that plan.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So we've already seen that. So this whole throne room, every visual aspect of it, whether it's completely physical and literal or completely symbolic, are all pointing us to the redemptive plan of Christ, right? So this just is going to continue that,
Right.
Which this theme is we see all throughout ancient literature of repeating itself.
Yep.
And the more you repeat something, the more important it is, right? So you may say, well, why would it just keep going and saying the same thing basically through different analogies? Because this is important, right? And we should take that very seriously. Right?
Yeah, and it's a lot of times the repetition is because of repetitive failure.
Yeah,
and God has a repetitive reminder and a repetitive promise.
Yes, that's exactly.
Wouldn't
right.
have to repeat it if we would quit failing.
That's true. That is very true.
It's like once you stick a fork in a light socket, your mom and dad may spank your butt and yell at you, but if you don't ever do it again, they don't keep repeating.
That's right.
Don't do it. It's like you don't have to.
Yes.
You do it again, you get hit again, and you got to get yelled at, and until you quit doing it.
That's right. Yeah, and in fact, that's like 90% of parenting is just telling them the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah,
because they keep doing the same thing over and over again.
I really feel sorry for God.
he created this.
He did, but he has like 8 billion children. I only have 3, right? And so that's tough. But so chapter 4, verse 5. It's from the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. To me, that's pretty obvious. That's a symbol. It is a symbol. It's a symbol of God's presence, that He's going to be doing something. He's going to be appearing. You specifically connected it to on Mount Sinai.
Yep, right? On Mount Sinai, because the word there, phone, is actually voices, and then the rumblings, the continuous sound, and the peals. But so they're voices, and we've talked about this a little bit before. But every time it comes up, it's either demonstrating God's appearance or God's judgment.
Yeah.
So Mount Sinai, when Moses was on the mountain, this peals of thunder, thundering, lightning was happening. It was an appearance of God to Moses. Yeah. And even the people down, like, what is going up on the mountain?
Out.
Yeah.
To the point that they thought Moses was dead, so they built a golden calf.
Exactly. And then you move forward, and then we can find it. It's other places said, but then I relate it also within Revelation, because we're in Revelation. There's 3 or 4 other instances where it's used, and each time it happens, it's marking a specific point of something that's happening in judgment.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. So it's either his appearance or his judgment is when you see this, but it's also talking about the word phone, voices. Yeah. He's saying something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be audibly heard and understood.
Yeah. And just real quickly, in this season of The Chosen, Jesus in the temple going back and forth, and there's the scene where the people hear the thunder, and there are some of them that think that they heard a voice of God confirming that Jesus is the Messiah, right? In the thunder, right? So this theme, to me, it is a literal and symbolic. It's both of those that we're seeing here. So it's just reconfirming, hey, God's appearing. God's doing something. God, this is God, right? And then it says, before the throne were burning 7 torches of fire. Now,
which are the 7 spirits?
Which are the 7 spirits? Yeah. So we had lampstands, the spirits in lampstands before, right?
No, they were just in Revelation 1. It just said there are 7 spirits of the Lord standing before the throne.
That's right. The
lampstands was the church, but
was the church.
It's just a quick little here's the 7 spirits. Christ is sitting on the throne. That's all he was really letting them know in his introduction.
So that's what. Right. So this is the first time we see the word torch come in Revelation.
To symbolize them, to understand them, yes.
Yeah. So,
and again, I think in the next chapter, or we get into Revelation, I can't 6, but you're gonna see the seven spirits talked about again, but in a different light. Yeah. You're gonna see them in a different symbolized in a different way, suggesting what they're about at that point.
Yes, yeah.
Just want to point that out.
Yeah, no, so it does change. The symbolism changes in these, but it's all pointing to one truth. And,
Yes.
and so specifically the idea of torches. So that's the new. That's what new is introduced, not the seven spirits. The seven spirits we've seen and we've talked about. That's wisdom and all of the different aspects.
All about God's plan and purpose.
Yes, it's all pointing to His redemptive plan, right?
That's it.
But the torches, that is introducing not a new theme, but it's introducing this covenantal aspect.
Yes.
Because torches and sacrifice, that's the connection there, correct?
Yeah. So I'm not going to go through it, but obviously you go back to Genesis and see God's covenant with Abram, and to have sons and an heir, which is going to be Isaac, and because he was saying, "Hey, I don't have anything, God, what's going on? I'm going to give you one," and he's also telling him, "I'm going to give you land, which is Canaan, which is the promised land." What we see telling him Abram to do is slice up a couple different animals and stack them together on an altar, and then it talks about when it was a dark time, he goes to sleep, and then the flaming torch goes going between them in a sacrificial way, but going between them, and the very next phrase says, and that this is when the covenant between Abram, who later becomes Abraham, was made, that I'm going to give you essentially the promised land and heirs to the promised land, to the Israelites, basically. So that's where the covenant starts essentially with Abraham, was through this flaming torch, through a sacrifice, a burnt offering that was made by Abraham from God, and he's now going to honor this. I'm going to give you this. It's going to be yours. You're going to have an heir, you're going to have peoples, and you are going to have a promised land.
Yeah. So by John seeing this, it is bringing up those thoughts and those remembrances of the covenant, the covenant that God made from the beginning, and John would have been actually closer to our understanding of the covenant, because he had grown up believing the covenant was between his people, the Jewish people, if you will, and God. Now,
and it was.
Yes. Now he's also recognized, that covenant has extended through the Messiah,
which is now the new covenant, which is still the old, but it's the new. Through him is the sacrifice.
That's right. It's the continuation of the old covenant. So it is a new covenant, but it's not a new covenant, right? But
it's new because it's through Christ. It's not about Jews and Gentiles. It's about believers and non-believers now.
Yes. It's just and so John is recognizing that, but it's interesting how he's being reminded by going all the way back to Genesis, right? So because sometimes we think, and we sometimes make this mistake within the Christian church, is we think of new covenant, so then we elevate the New Testament because that's what's most important, right? Because it's the new covenant. No, it's all the continuation of the same covenant. It's just that we have delineated it out differently because there were a lot of Jews who didn't want to give up the idea of how the old covenant functioned and worked. They didn't want to accept that God was always going to send the Messiah to open up the covenant even more to everyone else.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. But so John is actually able to see all of that and be able to, and I think that's important for us. We need to understand the Old Testament in order to fully understand the New Testament. Right? I mean, it just makes sense. So we have the covenant that is established here. That is very important. That we've talked about covenant. I think even with Nehemiah, right? We talked about going through.
I think we were talking about this last week. Exactly.
So the covenant is a very important aspect, and to me, it's so important to understand that, because that means that God has entered into this covenant with us. He can't break that covenant. He's God, right? It's hard for us because we all know we don't use that language anymore, and we all know that we can all break contracts. In fact, not the reason is there's a lot of lawyer jokes here, But what are one of the prime things that lawyers do? They find loopholes to every contract, right? So once that contract doesn't start going the way that we want it to, we're looking for ways out.
Exactly.
And the reality is we do that with God's covenant too. We are not faithful to it. Thankfully, He is faithful to that covenant always, and that's being reiterated right here in chapter 4.
It is, and his covenant is His promise. For anybody who doesn't know what a covenant is, it's His promise to us, what's going to happen, which we just talked about. But then our side of the covenant is to do what He said, but we keep breaking the covenant, hence why we had to have sacrifice.
Exactly, to restore back. So we have the torches. Then we get around. We're not really. There's a sea of glass or crystal. To me, the main point of that is it's going to come to play later in Revelation. It does, right? Yep.
So the simple thing, like, this is just pre-judgment.
Yes,
it's going to change after judgment, but right now we can just leave at the point of this is pre-judgment.
Right
what they're
now,
seeing.
It's kind of calm and tranquil.
That's exactly it.
It's not going to be that way.
No,
later.
That's the whole point.
So then around the throne, we get to these 4 living creatures.
Right.
All right. So these 4 living creatures, real quickly, there are other creatures that we see in Daniel and Isaiah. Some will say these are the same creatures.
Right.
But they are different even in the way they're referenced. Right. Correct?
True. So some people suggest that these 4 creatures are the seraphim. That we see in the throne room there, in Ezekiel. But the problem is they have the same face, but it's one creature as a seraphim has all 4 faces. Yeah. And I think it's 8 wings or 6 wings. Yeah. and they have wheels with wheels inside of the wheels. Yeah. The spirit of the seraphim is within the wheel inside of the wheel. We're going to talk about that later. We're going to have to understand that more. But so the creature looks different. These creatures are 4 individual creatures with one face, a different number of wings, and a bunch of eyeballs all over their wings and all over their heads.
Yeah.
So they're 2 different things. They don't have 4 heads or 4 faces. They have 1.
Yeah.
Seraphim have 4. The cherubim. Then the seraphim is very close, but they have a different number of wings without all the eyeballs in and out of their wings. But the thing is, 2 of the wings cover their faces. Yeah. So we never get to see what the face actually looks like of a seraphim. Now, I'm not going to go into it right now. Later, we'll be talking about this, but they serve different purposes to God and His redemptive plan. Yeah. And so we'll get into that. But these are 4 different creatures than those creatures, the seraphim and the cherubim.
Yeah. And now, again, these are those that it's hard to wrap our mind around if this is a literal physical creature that exactly looks like that, or if this is how John is explaining it, and that it's all symbolic. Okay, we can get into that. If God wanted to create a creature that has the face of an ox with a bunch of eyeballs on it, you know what? He's God. He can do that, right? If it's more symbolic, and He allowed John to see it in that way, so that John knows exactly what it stands for. Okay, so those can be fun debates, and I think there's nothing wrong with those, but we can't miss the bigger picture of what these are functioning as, what the truth that they are pointing us to. Right. So that brings us to the first one. Well, first, just the eyes all around.
It's the all-seeing.
It's all.
We're going to be talking about that more later, but it is the all-seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that God is He's able to see all things before,
all seeing, all knowledge, knows it all.
Yes. So it's very, very simple. The first creature, though, has a face like a lion. So to me, it's fairly self-explanatory. But the lion, who is that pointing us to?
So that's pointing to Christ. He is called the Lion of Judah. You can go into Revelation 5, just jump one chapter ahead and see he's actually named the Lion of Judah. Yeah. And that comes from Judah, which was one of Abram's sons, was Judah. And he received, and you will read this in Genesis 49, he received a covenant through God, what was going to come under Judah, which is essentially comes from King David. Yeah. King David takes over Mount Zion, which is Jerusalem, builds a fortress, and now owns it. Judah was giving a promise when he was giving out land to everybody, they would have that portion of Canaan and Jerusalem. And then from that lineage, from David, comes Jesus Christ, who is now the king, the Lion of Judah, of over the earthly Jerusalem as well as the heavenly Jerusalem, because it speaks of also that that Judah was the lion's cub. So it wasn't the lion, just the lion's
Judah
cub.
Wasn't the lion.
No, it was not the lion. They were just given dominion and throne and control over this, and they had a scepter and control. But it was going to be given unto the one that gets recognized, which is Christ, will take that control. And we see him now in Revelation, and in chapter 5 is going to call him the Lion of Judah, because he's no longer the lamb, the nice guy. He is now here to judge.
Right.
And he's now taking a scepter. He is now taking control, and he's going to pass judgment. And that's why we're going to get into things a little bit on the darker side, if you will. So that's the Lion of Judah. That's what we're seeing. We're still seeing Christ, the one that is. And it's the fulfillment of the covenant that he is going to. God says, I'm going to send you a Messiah. I'm going to send you this through Judah, this Christ, basically. And I promised you.
It's so important that everything that we're reading here is reinforcing and connecting the long-term plan of God, the full redemptive plan of God, right? And I'm sorry, there's no way you could make this stuff up, because again, the Bible was written over a period of about 1,500 years. I'm talking about Old Testament through New Testament by like 40 different authors, right? Yes, did they all share some commonalities? Yeah, but I mean, 1,500 years of history, you're talking about different contexts, different situations, all of that. What I'm saying is there's no way you could rewrite things to make all of this fit.
Right.
Things were written about Judah before David existed.
Yeah.
Right. And then so then you couldn't just magically then rewrite, Christ, he happens to fit all of these things. No, that's way too many coincidences. Right.
Way too many.
And so again, just by doing this, God is reaffirming to them, hey, remember whenever you read about Judah being the lion's cub, that he was preparing essentially that through him, the lion was going to come, right? This is what we're talking about. This is who Christ is, right? So
exactly.
So you have the lion, then you have the ox, and we wanted a little bit of clarification on the ox.
So just, I'm going to bring up my phone here in the definition's sake. So when I did it last night, I said it where I understood it, but I didn't use all the right words. And especially here in Texas, I'm like, hold on, that doesn't sound like a cow or a cattle.
People know cows.
People know cows.
Yeah.
We love our brisket. But so there was a question asked, which is fair. Ask me a question if I'm not clear on something. So a statement was made last night, a question. So I want to clarify so we understand what an oxen is. And because it speaks of an ox and it speaks of bulls, but I'm going to go ahead and put this up here. When you look in the biblical context, when it's doing the definitions in the Hebrew, Greek, whatever, there's part of the definition to understand what it's talking about. So when it's speaking of oxen and bulls and everything, and you go find the definition, it's talking about the bovine. So here's what a bovine is. A bovine refers to an animal from the subfamily of bovinae, which includes cattle, buffalo, and bison. It can be used more broadly to describe anything related to or resembling cattle, sometimes with a connotation of being slow or stupid. It is a subfamily of medium to large-sized hoofed mammals that includes cattle, bison, buffalo, and various antelopes. These ruminant animals have sturdy bodies, 4 legs, and cloven hooves that help them navigate different terrains. They have a multi-chambered stomach for efficiency of breaking down tough plant material. Bovinae are native to Africa, Eurasia, North America, India, and Southern Asia. So Africa and Eurasia, this is going to be in the Middle East. So that's what a bovine is. So it's these different animals. It's not just a cow.
Right.
It's not just cattle. And then now when we're talking about the term oxen versus bull, and this is what I was getting last night, I think I lost some people, which is fine. And trust me, when I first was doing this, I'm like, what the heck? I thought an ox was an entirely different breed of an animal.
Yes. Yeah.
It is not.
Just to clarify, you thought, like I think many of us would, you have cows, you have a Hereford cow, And then you have bison. Those are two very different things.
Yeah.
You were putting an oxen in that same kind of thing. So you have a Hereford cow, and then you have an oxen. It's a totally different line of animal.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I thought exactly it was. I was wrong.
Yeah.
An oxen is actually a thing of the bovine of cattle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's how it works. So when you hear the word bull, a bovine bull, one of those types of animals, a bull is an intact male bovine cattle, so it has not been castrated, used for breeding, so it is fully intact. Mm-hmm. A steer is a castrated male bovine, typically raised for meat.
Yes.
And an oxen is a bovine, usually a steer, that has been trained for work like plowing. Essentially, a bull is a male breeding animal, a steer is a castrated male raised for meat, and an oxen is a working steer. In summary, the key difference lies in their reproductive status, intact versus castrated, and their intended purpose, breeding versus work meat. Yeah. So when I was talking about this last night, I brought up two different points of what a sacrifice was. And when you look in the Hebrew and break it down, it talks about the bovine animal. So there was a full-blown sacrifice of the entire animal, fat and everything, for full redemption to your sin that the people used, that God told Moses to tell the people, bring it up to the tent of meeting, and that was an oxen. Now, that is a animal that was a bull, been castrated, no longer for meat, and is now, and actually looking to us 3 to 4 years old, that has been trained to use for work. So it's an oxen. So the difference between a steer and an oxen is just whether one works or one doesn't work. One's for meat, one's for working.
Yeah, the reality is the steer is made into meat within a couple of years.
Yeah.
The oxen lives a full life because it's working.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly what it is. So that's what an ox is of the bovine family. So they were told to bring forth the oxen, and it's a servant animal. It was used for a purpose to, now I was kind of going this, but plowing fields, which sowing the seeds, reaping the seeds, having fruit, all through Christ, if you want to go back to Adam. But the point is, that's what they used, and that's what they were to sacrifice. And where I was drawing the difference, so no one thinks I was making things up, is if you go up to Aaron the high priest, there's a story on him talking about the sacrifice of the high priest. They used a bull, a young bull, actually, there's a word in Hebrew that suggests it's a young bull, but not the ox.
Yeah.
So the difference being, one was a servant animal that the people used for complete atonement for their sin, but the high priest uses a bull. Now, when we understand this in terms of the covenant and who Christ is, Christ would not be the bull because he also represents the high priest. And he doesn't have sin. So he doesn't need to sacrifice. He is the sacrifice, to us as the servant, as the ox. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. and that is very helpful to clarify. So the ox is just the ox. It's just a reference to the type of cow that it is,
right?
And because we all understand for the thing that makes it hard for us to understand in America is we use cattle. Whenever a cow is born, it's either male or female, right? The bull or heifer, right?
It's either a bull or a cow.
A bull or a cow, yes.
Yeah, so it's cattle, bull, male, cow, female.
Yes, and so there are different ways that we talk about them, right? And so then you either, for the most part, the cattle are strictly used here for feeding. Right.
Yep.
So if when that bull is born, he's normally castrated fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's raised and it then goes to slaughter. Right. That's just the reality of it. If that bull is not castrated, then it's raised to become a bull to keep reproducing to have more cattle. That's how we do it.
Right.
Right. Well, in other parts of the world, even today, they will have, whenever a baby is born and it's a bull, they may let it grow for a while and then castrate it and then use it to pull plows and to pull wagons. That they refer to that as an ox.
Exactly.
Right. So that's why it's hard for us. We technically don't have ox here because no one's using a cow to plow their field.
No, we use John Deere tractors.
John Deere, right?
That's not even a real deer.
Yeah. This is not a paid advertisement for John Deere.
Oh, wow, yeah.
No, we, and I mean, now there are times we've had some car issues. I'm kind of ready to go back to the wagon, and so maybe I'm going to go find me an ox and just let it take me around.
There you go.
It's probably more reliable. However, that's why it's hard for us to understand, and that's why sometimes we think of ox as a completely different species of animal or breed of animal. It's not really. It's just reference to what that cow,
castrated working cow.
Yes, yeah.
So I hope that makes everything clear. So I wasn't making things up
it's also awesome because of what it stands for.
Yeah.
It's the servant, which who is that? That is Christ, right?
So he was the sacrifice.
He was the sacrifice. This really is. It's fun to talk about. It's actually fairly simple to understand the basics, right? But the next one, the next living creature had the face of a man.
Right.
Well, you used Philippians chapter 2, right? That's the perfect view of God becoming man, of Christ becoming flesh, right?
Yep.
I think that's fairly self-explanatory.
It is.
Right?
He's called the Son of Man, one like the Son of Man. Look, every bit of historical evidence anybody's seen Jesus, it was a man. It wasn't a funny-looking dude running around. He was just another Jewish man running around.
Yeah.
So the man, the Messiah that's coming, the man,
Yeah. So
didn't have to kill that one too hard. I think everybody understood.
And again, all of this is pointing to the fact that the Messiah is fulfilling the covenant and following the plan of redemption.
Right.
And that the Messiah is the one that's going to be doing this.
Right. And he's going to come to the world as a man.
Yes. And then the fourth one, it changes a little bit.
It does.
It says the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not saying it has the face of an eagle.
No, it doesn't say that.
It actually doesn't even say it has a face. It says it's like an eagle in flight. So what is that?
So the eagle in flight. Now, to understand this is going all the way back to the Exodus, with the Jews. And we had Moses was the one that God was using to bring the Jews out of Egypt against Pharaoh, led them across the Red Sea, brought them outside of Canaan. So he was kind of the rescuer. But at the end of the day, what God tells Moses is make sure everybody remembers and knows that I brought them out like on wings of eagles to me. Mm-hmm. So of everything that Moses did to get to him, it still was all about God. I rescued them. I pulled them up and brought them to me. So that is also another reference. You understand that if you want to even go to literal, if we're waiting for a salvation, or if we're waiting, if we're waiting for a rapture, being brought into a promised land, well, we're going to make it to a certain point, and we can't jump high enough to get into heaven, that being taken up on the wings of an eagle, that would be Christ. He's the one that's going to lift us up and take us up. Yeah. So it's just another reference to Christ and his protection and his deliverance unto God or unto himself, basically, is what it is.
And again, it is tying in back to the original Old Covenant, this full redemptive plan. And just as God brought the people out of Egypt, he's going to bring us into his presence as well.
Exactly.
So no, that's really cool. So
I just want to make one add to that, because because this is one of those things where you can get on your head two different sides, like, well, what is this? Because some do teach this, that these four creatures represent the four gospels. They represent Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I get it, but all those gospels speak of all the different things of who Christ is that we just talked about, and all of the covenants. But so do all the prophets. So does the Torah. So does Moses. So does Paul and all of his epistles. And they all say the same thing. But this one here is one that kind of throws a monkey in the wrench, if you will. It kind of like twists a little bit when it's suggested that this represents John, because the very beginning of it says the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We know that's talking about Christ. Okay, we got it. And so they say, okay, this is the deity of God to God and Christ. Okay, that's how she was speaking about. But they'll use the eagle in reference to try to suggest, this is how the Gospels come out, that this eagle, because it can fly from heaven, it can come down to earth, that it's bring God and Christ is one, and this deity, divine thing between the two. I get it. To hear it kind of makes sense when you're trying to collectively put these four Gospels in there. The only downside that really plays bad to this is the fact that an eagle was an unclean bird.
Yeah.
So now we're in a suggestion of saying that Christ is an unclean bird of a divine nature, of a deity to God. That's impossible. He would never be referenced as being unclean. If this had doves, I might be a little bit more like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But the point is, he can't be of an unclean. And as we talked about a little while ago, and one of the names of the 24 elders was talking about a swine. Well, it's not a swine specifically. It's talking about Gentiles. So the swine was an unclean animal, which is a Gentile, is an unclean person that hasn't received God. So you couldn't reference Christ as being a swine any more than you can reference him being an eagle, which is unclean. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's not about the four Gospels. It's about his covenant.
Right. Yes. Exactly. And that, so as you continue to go through, basically you enter into a worship setting that everything is acknowledging and bowing down to the one on the throne. Right. Which I think is important because it wraps up. It says, "Worthy are you." All the fun stuff that you can talk about, all of this, it really brings us to this point. Worthy are you, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. Right? So this whole chapter, and really this whole first section, if you will, of Revelation is pointing us to the full redemptive plan of God. So this in itself has God in the center as Jesus Christ, right? And it's connecting. He is the one who created all things. He created the covenant with us, right? We see that. Then we see the redemptive plan represented in all of the elders that are worshiping the Lord. So he has his covenant. He has his plan of how the covenant is going to play out and to work out. And then he is the one that is exercising that covenant. He is the one that is being faithful to the covenant. Even when we are not faithful, he is still being faithful to it. And basically, now that we understand that fact, and it's important to understand that fact because things are about to kind of go to hell, right? So things are about to get crazy from the rest of Revelation. And so this is just establishing and making sure we understand who Christ really is.
Exactly. And that's why, and I'm going to say it since I'm sitting here, that is why I have the word redemption tattooed across my arm, because that's all about his redemptive plan. So who's going to redeem us is Christ. How he's going to redeem us, that is his redemptive plan through the 24 elders. Why? Because he promised through a covenant, I'm going to do this. So it's the who, the how, and the why is the redemption plan. And that's what it all boils down to. Now all we have to do is either be on board with that and accept him or not be on board. And it's still part of his covenant. If you do not do this, here's my promise what's going to happen to you, and it's going to get a little smoky.
The sea is not going to be as crystal.
It's not going to be as crystal. That's very good.
So, all right. Well, hey, we encourage you to join us on Redeemed Idiot on YouTube or Facebook. You can come Wednesday nights at 6:30, but you can always watch those on those social media. You can also watch it within our media section of our church app for Journey Elgin Church. I hope that you're recognizing what the beauty of the book of Revelation. It is tying everything together, which it should. It's the conclusion, right? It is tying everything together, and it is really elevating who Christ is, and that is so important for us to do.
And it is, and to your point, Revelation is thought of so much of this dark hellfire, brimstone, crazy supernatural things, and all this. And I get it. I mean, I understand why people think that. But here we are. We're going through we're in the first 4 chapters. The 5th chapter isn't dark yet. It's just setting the scene. So the first part of this is nothing really detrimental. We go through church like just get it right.
Yeah.
Then it does go through the area like what's called the tribulation. But after the tribulation's over, it turns into greatness again, and it gets happy.
Yeah.
So it's not the entire Bible or Revelation, it's the entire hellfire, brimstone, I don't want to know. It's like, no, there is a part in there of that, but the majority of it is really talking about the redemptive process, which is a positive thing that he's promised.
Yeah.
Stick with it.
That's right. That's right. Because he is the one who is worthy. He
Yes.
is the one who is created.
Yeah.
And it is all about his redemptive plan and purpose.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 6:30, and then we'll do another recap after.
Right on.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.